Good morning! I'm coming at you today with another sit down and get all philosophical chatty type video. We're just gonna sit here and talk about things that I'm thinking about. Today's topic is going to be people pleasing and over explaining. Now this is a very sensitive topic that is near and dear. My Aura ring! Hold on. This isn't even a real Aura ring. It's from TikTok Shop. Because what do I look like spending $500 on a ring and then $5 per month on a subscription? No, thank you. So this was like $40. But it honestly does the same thing. It tracks my sleep, my stress, my steps, my heart rate. Okay, you didn't ask about that. Anyway, the reason why I love talking, I love talking in general, but the reason why over-explaining and being a people pleaser is very important to me is because it's an issue I've dealt with for as long as I can remember, and I'm very happy that now I'm seeing more people talk about it. I don't think it was ever a topic that wasn't talked about. I just think that with the rise of social media, everyone is kind of able to share their experiences on these things. For as long as I can remember, I have been a horrible, horrible people pleaser. A very chronic people pleaser, if you will. I feel such an immense guilt and remorse if I'm unable to do what I think is satisfying the other person's needs or desires. So let's say you ask me if I want In-N-Out, and I don't want In-N-Out, but let's say I want Cane's, okay? Now let's say the other person also really wants Cane's, but they suggested In-N-Out first. And so they go, oh, do you want to get In-N-Out? And I'm like, I don't know, it doesn't sound that good. I kind of wanted Cane's, but if you want In-N-Out, let's get In-N-Out. And then they go, no, it's fine. Cane's sounds really good too, let's just get Cane's. But then now I'm in my head thinking, well, you said In-N-Out first, which means you, in your mind, subconsciously wanted In-N-Out more. And now that I just said that I don't want In-N-Out, even though I gave you an option that you still really like and you're still down to get, I feel bad, I feel like a horrible person, and I feel like now you hate me because I didn't want to get In-N-Out. It just happened the other day when me and my boyfriend went to go watch Project Hail Mary, which, by the way, such a good movie, such a good 2.5 hours spent in the theater, might be one of my favorite movies of all time. This is really off topic, but I was telling him about how I'm so tired of movies where someone always has to die, someone has to move away, we always have to lose a character in some form, right? I am too emotional for that. I love a good, happy ending for everyone kind of movie. I just love a feel-good movie, and that's exactly what that movie was. So anyways, where was I going with that? Oh, right. We were about to leave for the movies, and he bought this bag of Cheetos to bring in, right? And he was like, I bought these for the movie. And he was really excited about it. And I was also excited about it. I was like, hell yeah, because I love Cheetos. So it sounded like a great time to meet. But then we're about to leave, and I'm thinking, my bag is pretty big. I'm like, if we put the Cheetos in this bag, they're gonna see it. And my bag doesn't close all the way. So you'll be able to hear the chips moving around, and you'll be able to look directly in the bag. And I didn't want to risk, having to throw them away or go back to the car because we were already running late for the movie. And so I was like, maybe we shouldn't bring these to the movie because I just want to make sure that, we don't have any issues. And he was like, okay, yeah, that's totally fine. But then I felt so bad. And I was like, are you sure? Are you mad at me? Do you hate me? Because you bought these for the movie. Now we're not taking them for the movie. And he looked at me and he went, we can just eat them at home. Like, it's fine. We'll eat them anyway. We don't have to bring them to the movie. But because he came to me and was excited and said, oh my God, I bought these for the movie, and then I suggested that we didn't, I felt horrible. And I felt like I ruined the night. And that's just one example of many times that happens. And for the longest time, I was never okay with it, but for the longest time, I kind of just let it happen because growing up, it was sort of the only way that I could get around. I know I talk about it a lot, and I say that every time I talk about it, but yes, I grew up in a family where I had to put everyone's needs before my own, and I became a people pleaser to pacify any sort of issues that my own decisions would cause. Now, did that stop them from ever getting mad at me? No. They always got mad at me, so it really didn't help. And because of that, I got nothing out of it. I didn't even get to evade the wrath of my parents from it. So it was a waste of energy and a waste of time, 100%, yes. And I would just agree to things. I would force myself to do things that I did not want to because in my head, I thought, well, as long as I can make this person feel better, it doesn't matter what I want. That is such a horrible, toxic mindset to have. And if you are also thinking the same way, please stop. please stop. For the love of God, if you have any ounce of self-respect, don't do it. Because I promise you, you get nothing out of it. It comes back to bite you in the ass later in life, and it will only bring you pain and misfortune. And I mean that. And then I grew up and I realized that I still carry those same habits with me relentlessly. Doesn't matter what scenario I'm in. And kind of on the same vein, I have a very big problem with over-explaining. You could ask me a very simple yes or no question and I will expand it. I will draw it out into a 3-paragraph, 5-minute long rant about why I can't or don't want to, how I came to the conclusion that I can't or don't want to, how I feel about the fact that I can't or don't want to, and how I hope you feel about the fact that I can't or don't want to. And it gets very redundant for me. So I can only imagine how redundant it gets for the other people having to listen to me say these things over and over again, right? And I know that I do it and I know that it's an issue, but I can't stop. I don't know why. I honestly didn't even realize that there's a hair on my mouth. I'm sorry. I vividly remember, this is so funny, my first legal job that I ever had, because I was working under the table for a while, when I was like 14. So my first legal job that I got with a work permit and everything, I didn't want to work weekends. And so I texted my manager and I told her, hey, I can't work weekends. And then I made up a lie. I made up a lie for why I can't work weekends. I think I said something about I take my siblings to a sports practice or I babysit them. I don't know, something like that. And she replied something like, okay, got it. Thanks for all the detail, LOL, great story. And I remember I read that and I I felt so weird and I felt so awkward. One, because I had a feeling she knew I was lying, which is so stupid. And that's another thing. I give people reasons when I shouldn't and I don't need to, especially with jobs. You know, if I had to request a day off or I had to call out or something with my availability, I would always tell some big elaborate story along with it. You don't need to do that. It's just a job. You don't owe them an explanation. All you are legally obligated, I don't know. All you are obligated to say is, hey, I can't come in, or hey, I won't be here this day. You don't need to go in and give a huge explanation as for why not. I've come to the conclusion that I'm tired of doing it and I don't want to do it anymore. And so I've started getting used to the idea of just telling people no. And okay, there's definitely a very fine line between putting yourself first and respecting your boundaries and then just being an asshole to everyone. We've talked about it. Okay, I've been struggling. I've been going through it. My life has not been the most jolly, fun thing. And 2026 was supposed to be my year. I made that goal last year. I said, okay, this is the year of the fire horse. It is the end of a 9-year karmic cycle. Was it 9 years? 6 years? I don't remember. So I made that goal. 2026 is going to be my year. I'm going to work on myself, on my relationships with people. I'm going to work on my career. In order to be in line with those values, I had to address my issue of over-explaining and people-pleasing. And I had to start getting comfortable with the thought that I will have to make people upset. Now, I will say I'm a lot better about it. It comes in waves. You know, if I think about it too hard, then I will freak out. Or if it's someone that I highly respect and value the opinion of, I will still get the same way and I'll still freak out and be like, well, what if they hate me? What if they're mad at me? But it has gotten a lot better. It's gotten a lot better and I've felt a lot more comfortable just telling people no or setting my boundaries, putting my foot down. And that's why I'm very protective over my space and my privacies, because as a kid, that was my only way of setting boundaries. My room was my sanctuary, and that was always disrespected. You know, my parents were always coming in to get mad at me about something. My younger siblings were always coming in to jump on my bed with their shoes and touch all of my things with their dirty hands and knock my shit over and then just leave. Nobody cared about my boundaries or my privacy. Ever. And that same thing can be said about my emotional safety as well, which is why when I have to tell people no or I have to set my own boundaries, it's a lot for me because now I'm putting myself in an emotionally compromised position. In my mind, it's safer to just go along with what the other person wants, even though we all know in the long run that's not the case. And in the long run, that is actually disrespecting my boundaries, breaking down my sanctuary to fit the other person's needs. It's so freeing when you finally make peace with the fact that you can't make everyone happy. And any decision you make has the risk of upsetting someone. And once you become okay with that fact and you become comfortable with the idea that you might make people upset, you might make people not like you or become mildly annoyed with you, life feels so much more free. And it's not that I don't care how my actions affect people, and I do still care what people think about me. I don't want people to think I'm a horrible person or that I have a disregard for everyone else's feelings. But when it's a situation where my needs are up in contest against someone else's needs, I will put mine first. Obviously, there are situational circumstances where that would be different. If I have a friend in dire need of something, they're in danger, or they need support, even if I'm tired or I'm irritated or I don't want to be there, I will go. But if it's one of those things where someone's asking me to do something that I don't want to do and their life isn't going to be negatively affected by me saying no, I'm going to say no. My thing too is if I do that to someone, I will always try to suggest an alternative. You know, like if someone asks me to hang out and let's say I'm just feeling like shit that day, or I'm just tired, or I have work early the next morning, or I just want to be home, I'll say no. I don't want to, but then I'll be like, what about next week? And I will do that because I do think that with most people, especially if it's a relationship that you value and you want to keep, there does need to be a bit of a give and take. You can't just say no to everyone all the time, right? That's not how that works. So it's always no, but how about this instead? 5 years ago, I would have said, if I tell this person no to hanging out right now, they're never going to ask me again. They're not going to want to be my friend. I'm never going to get to hang out with them, and that's it. Our relationship is over. I noticed I especially have this problem with jobs. I know I talked about that earlier, but for example, my new job, the job I just started, they keep asking me to come in on days I'm not available. I have my availability set. It's strict. And I kept saying, no, I'm not available. Me, 3 jobs ago, would have sent a whole message. I'm so sorry, but I cannot. Because of this reason, I'm unavailable on this day, this day, this day for this reason. In some workplaces, that is considered common courtesy. And again, it's everything in moderation, right? You have to look at it in a situational circumstance because it changes. But now I've gotten used and comfortable with the idea of just saying, no, I can't. Sorry. I'm unavailable that day. That day's not on my availability. I won't be scheduled that day. And it's such a simple thing that, again, will sound so minute and unimportant to someone who's grown up with the privilege of just being able to do that. But as someone who is punished for not being compliant, a step like that is huge for me. You know, I saw a TikTok one time. This is kind of unrelated, but I saw someone say that insecure people are the most self-centered people they've ever met. And then I saw a comment of someone saying, I got over this because my friend asked me, why do you think everyone's looking at you all the time? And I guess that might not fully apply to this scenario, but I kind of think it does. I'll catch myself thinking, why do you assume that your decisions have this much power over people? Why do you assume people are going to care this much by what you decide to do? And it works. It grounds me, and then it makes me think, oh, shit, that's right. Nobody really cares. I'm not ruining anyone's life by not going to a concert with them. I'm not burning someone's business to the ground by not coming in on a day that I'm not available. It can be perceived as self-deprecating if you take it the wrong way, but I do kind of have to remind myself how small I am in the grand scheme of things. I'm just one person. I'm one person whose actions are pretty insignificant. Not that I don't have the power to make change. Of course I do. Everyone does. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, by me choosing not to do something, it's not going to have any huge ramifications on anyone. The world is going to keep spinning. No one's going to care that much. And even if I do mildly inconvenience someone, they're going to get over it. And it'll be fine. And that is the biggest thing, I think, that helped me stop chronically over-explaining, was just realizing I'm probably making it worse by beating a dead horse. And I do think that people get more irritated of me doing that than they do by me just saying no. That being said, I do feel much more comfortable setting boundaries with people. I feel much more comfortable making decisions and putting myself in situations that benefit me. But of course, again, you still need to have a sense of humility with it. You can't just go around telling people, fuck you, I'm doing this because it makes me feel better. And I hate when people do that. I hate when people take mental health and emotional well-being and they run with it and they warp it into some sick, twisted, narcissistic narrative to excuse their behavior. You can't just go around being a dick to everyone and then say, but I'm doing it for me. It's for my mental health. I need to put myself first. That's not the same. And I'm getting irritated about it because I knew someone like that. And she was mind-numbing to be around. Having conversation, I don't even want to get into it. But anyways, you can't do that, okay? Obviously, you still need to be a real person, and you still need to be nice to people. And sometimes you do need to sacrifice a little bit of your rest time, your relaxation time to be there for someone. And that's okay. That is being a good person. That is being a good friend. But if it gets to a point where it's draining your own reserves, And now you're starting to feel worse. If it's a scenario where you're just like, oh, I was kind of tired after work today, I sort of wanted to just hang out on the couch and not see anyone, and then your friend calls you and is like, I just broke up with my boyfriend, I'm having a horrible time, can I come over? Then, as a friend, you should be like, yeah, of course. Just a heads up, I'm pretty tired too, but you need someone there, and I'll be there for you. But if it starts to get to a point where it's emotionally draining and you have a friend who's always hitting you up crying about something that her shitty boyfriend did to her, because again, I know someone like that too. I've gone to pick people up at night in the middle of the street because their boyfriend pushed them out of the car. Once or twice is different, right? Because that's just like, well, I'm being here for you. This is a horrible thing that happened. It caught both of us off guard. But if it starts becoming a recurring thing, you go and you be there for them, but then it happens again the next week, and it happens again and again and again. That's when it's okay to put your foot down and say, okay, I can't keep doing this for you. You know, if you have a friend who's only coming to you when things go wrong, and expecting you to make them feel better, but then when you're having a rough time, you're having a bad day, and you need someone there for you, they make it all about themselves. They turn it back to make themselves the victim, and they direct every story back to them. Just take care of yourself, be there for yourself, be there for your friends when they need it, but if it becomes too much, pull back. That's when it becomes okay to start being selfish. At that point is when my family started calling me selfish, because I sacrificed so much of myself to be there for everyone else, played therapist for both of my parents, and when it got to a point that it was draining my emotional reserves and I started to feel the effects of it, I pulled back. And that's why I don't talk to my family anymore. I couldn't perform in the way that they wanted me to without sacrificing a piece of myself, and I couldn't do that anymore. It was becoming too painful for me. A lot of it was just realizing that I wasn't able to process anything that had happened to me as a child. Even my mom passing, she passed in 2022, and I still haven't fully sat with that because right as everything was happening, I was distracting myself with work, with school, with friends. I was filling up as much of my day with back-to-back activities so that I wouldn't have to think about what was happening in my life. And this period of silence that I've taken, these few months that I've taken where I've shut myself out from the world, I've finally started to make sense and understand all of the things that have been happening. And also a large part of having a lot of childhood trauma is you forget a lot of things. In this period of solitude I've taken, I've noticed I've started remembering a lot more things. And I hate when it happens, honestly, I really do, because I'll just be sitting here not doing anything even pertaining to my family or trauma or anything, and I'll just remember. Something will pop into my head. My brain will be like, hey, do you remember when this thing happened when you were 7? Remember how bad that made you feel? And then I sit there and I'm like, damn, I didn't want to remember that, but now I do. And now I have to sit here and think about it. I was in a program for a bit called ACA, and it stands for Adult Children of Addicts. And it was all about explaining to the child why you had nothing to do with your parents' sickness. Because in that program, addiction is described as a sickness. You could never have done anything to help them. And it's a really sad conclusion to come to because it's hopeless. You couldn't have done anything to help. You couldn't have done anything to change how things happen. And it's a weird thing to sit with when you grow up thinking that you have to be the one to fix everything. That was the only way that I could start to heal from it, was understanding that I had nothing to do with it. Even though I suffered all the consequences from it, I had to feel all the effects of it. My chemistry as a person has changed because of it. It had nothing to do with me. It was never my fault. And that might not seem like it has anything to do with what I've been saying, but that's where the over-explaining comes in, because I always felt like I had to be the one to make everything okay. I felt like I had to be the one to ground myself and the people around me. And so when I would go over-explaining to people, it's because I felt like it was my job to make everything okay. And I felt like by me saying no, by me setting a boundary, I was upsetting the balance of everything, and now it's my job to fix it. And that's another thing, is you can't control people's reactions to your actions. How somebody reacts to something that you did is not your fault. And most of the time, people are reacting in a way that's completely out of proportion to what you did, which really sums up the entire reason for over-explaining, right? It's because I felt like I had to do everything in my ability to let them down the easiest and make sure that they reacted in the best way for me and for them. I tried my best to keep somewhat of a structure for this video. I feel like when I tried to list out bullet points and give an order to what I'm talking about, I always end up forgetting things and then I end up backtracking regardless. So I hope I didn't do that too much today. I also hope that someone can take something from this. I think I say that in most of my videos, but it's true. I do hope that even though I don't feel like I make sense a lot of the time, someone out there is understanding what I'm trying to say and they can take a piece of knowledge for themselves. Hopefully I gave someone a little bit of insight about over-explaining, and it's just, it's all just about understanding that you aren't the cause of everything. I know you don't know me and you don't trust me, and I'm only 21, and you're probably thinking, what does this kid know? She was born yesterday. And yeah, that's kind of true. But again, I've been through a lot. But you know what? It's made me into the person I am today, and I'm grateful for that. So I hope that someone was able to benefit even slightly from this video. That would make me happy. Thank you guys for watching. If you've made it this far, let me know some videos you would like to see. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm starving. So I'm gonna go eat now. But I will see you in my next video. Bye!